Hey everyone, and welcome to this brand new video featuring all that's new on the D-Line subway extension for the month of August. Today we're going to take a look at all the stations and see what's new at each of them here on Tiger Railfan. Before we get started, let's take a quick look at the map of the subway extension. There's going to be 9.1 miles stretching west from Wilshire Western. We're going to be starting at Wilshire La Brea, and we're going to be heading further west all the way to the VA Medical Center station. So let's get started right here at Wilshire and La Brea. The intersection of Wilshire and La Brea itself is located just ahead, past the signal right here, but construction starts all the way at the block before. The sidewalk is closed just ahead here, so we're going to need to cross to the other side. On this side of the track though, this is not going to be the station entrance, and it's actually just a construction staging area. So once the construction's over, this whole lot will be open for transit-oriented development. But looking across the street on the other side of those trees, it's going to be the actual station entrance. Speaking of those trees, they are brand new and they've come out 2 months ago. They've been here in the last construction update, but there is no ferns or extra foliage yet at the bottom of the tree base, but we're going to see that at the next stop. So there is still updates in regards to that. But taking a closer look at the staging area for the construction site here at Wilshire and La Brea, there's really not much happening here, and it makes me wonder why they still have all of this area closed. And they're most likely just using it for storage of equipment they're not using, would be my guess. But the sidewalk looks like there's been some progress made over there. The concrete looks brand new, and of course there are some new trees on the sidewalk as well. So not only is this part of a subway extension, it's going to beautify the entire area around the stations themselves. And the medians and new sidewalks are clear examples of those improvements. Now let's go ahead and actually take a look at the station entrance site. Looking to our left, we can see there's really not much happening on this side of the field. It's most likely just also being used for construction staging, and it does make me wonder if that's going to be used for transit-oriented development or not once the station opens. My guess would be yes. There is no exact plan on what Metro is going to be doing with those plots of land, but I really hope they do something good with it. Looking straight ahead, we're able to see a yellow ladder structure that allows workers to access the roof of the elevators. So that suggests that they were most likely just up there doing some finishing touches. But here are those elevators themselves. They are all glass, which I honestly like, provides open air, and it makes it feel like an open space. But here we are at the actual station entrance now. So a few things to unpack here. On our right hand side, we can see the new sign that they're using. It's more of the curve shaped. It's going to be a new station sign that's going to be used on all future stations that are created. Looking inside the station itself, we can see that those TV screens do display the directions of travel. So that is a great sign to see that the system is now working. They're just waiting for service testing to begin. And I'd be curious to see if we have any estimated time departures on those before the subway actually opens. That would be cool to see, proof that trains are actually running down below. But looking from this angle, we can also see that all of the street lamps for the station are on as well, even though it's in the afternoon and it's really sunny. Makes me wonder why they do this. They do this at other stations as well, including at the Lamert Park station, as an example on the K line, which I've uploaded a station tour at, which you can check out in the description down below. But looking to our right hand side, we can see there is some construction continuing on Wilshire Boulevard on the sidewalks. Now the sidewalk is now closed, so you would need to cross the street here, but there is not much actual activity happening at the time of recording here. But it looks like they dug up the sidewalk and they're going to redo it as well. On the right hand side, this actually looks like what they're trying to do. It looks completed with brand new sidewalk, and they have new trees located on the sidewalk as well. I think those are great decorative touches to add to the sidewalk and make it feel like a more walkable environment, especially with the upcoming D-Line extension that's likely to bring plenty of pedestrians. Over there we can also see the Wilshire La Brea apartment structure. There is a ton of units and transit-oriented development already here, it seems. So density should not be an issue at all for the subway. And I'm sure ridership at all of the stations are going to be pretty strong, as you'll see throughout today's video. Now looking across the street to the other side, Metro is currently using that space as a construction staging site. So there will be no separate entrance on the other side of the street, unfortunately. but they will be using that to store construction vehicles, and we'll get a closer look at that in just a second. But we can see there is some work equipment present past the entrance, as well as, of course, the completed tree structures, which is awesome to see that the decorative features are being done early and before the opening of the station. So hopefully whenever it's time to open, the decorative features will all be there and the station will feel more complete opposed to just the bare minimum for service operation. But we can also see that the station site here is divided from the other lot next to it by those plant structures as well, which I think is a great design. It surrounds the station's entrance from the back as well, and it really creates the border that signifies what is a station and what's not. And that helps us because that helps us identify the lot on our left-hand side, which looks also to be for construction site staging. So Metro is going to have a total of 2 relatively large lots here to use for construction of any new transit-oriented development or low-rent housing that they wish to do. And I truly hope they do invest in something like that. But now let's get a look at the next stop along the line, Wilshire and Fairfax. Welcome to the intersection of Wilshire and Fairfax. We just finished crossing the intersection, and on our right-hand side, we can already see some defining features of the area. We can see that we just looked at the Peterson Automotive Museum, as well as the Academy of Motion Pictures, which is just ahead of us right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's new around this area. You can see the station's entrance is located just ahead, so it's not located exactly at the intersection of Wilshire and Fairfax, but it provides great access to all the museums around the area, which I assume will be the primary ridership driver of the station. Looking to our left, we're able to see a better angle of the completed median here at Wilshire Boulevard. We can also see that all lanes of traffic are now open in both directions compared to last month, where we'll get a quick look at that right now. We can see that work was still finishing up in July of 2025 last month, with 1 lane closed on either side of Wilshire Boulevard. So continuing looking to our right, heading towards the station entrance, we're going to see that there are some unique features of the station that help address the natural gas beneath the ground. This is actually what originally stopped the formerly red line from extending all the way out on Wilshire Boulevard. And that's why the subway was then rerouted over Vermont Avenue. But now we have the technology to dig through and we can get the D-line extension finished. And here we are at the station entrance itself. Let's take another quick look at a before and after to see what's new around the station. So the construction site actually looks very similar to how it was last month, but there's a few missing components, such as the trash can that was located in the July video, which is that red trash bag trash can. So now let's get a closer look at what we can see here at the Wilshire Fairfax station site. We can see the same type of signage is being used, and we can see that there are now trees lining the sidewalk. Also, in order to address the natural gas underground, there are these methane pipes that allow natural gas and methane to exit safely from underground. Looking back at the station entrance, we can see that the art, of course, has been completed. It has been since last month, so it's not necessarily a brand new thing, but it's awesome to see that it's been completed. You can also see that the escalators are in a very good state of construction in terms of being close to being finished. It's more than just a skeleton at this point, and they even have the flooring and the handrails done. So can't wait to see those escalators in motion, taking people down into the subway. Now turning to our right, we're also able to see that the lights at this station are all on as well, despite it being midday. The elevators you can see are also located on the left-hand side, slightly behind the sidewalk. But I'm sure the plaza is going to be a beautiful area to walk, so that shouldn't be much of a problem. Now, there are more museums coming up on our left-hand side, most notably the LA County Museum of Art. There's also the Urban Light, which we'll get a look at in just a second. But some more features I've noticed are those bike racks, which are located just to the right of those elevators. That also brings up the question if bike lockers are going to be added to the station, as I feel like that would be much more valuable than having these bike racks. Because unless the station is monitored 24/7, I'm sure bike theft would be a problem. But I'm not a biker myself, so let me know in the comments down below if bike theft really is a big problem on LA Metro. I'd love to see the insight. But before we go, let's take a quick look at the museums that are located behind us. So we can see the LA County Museum of Art, which is a museum that is undergoing large expansions. That bridge along Wilshire Boulevard that crosses it is part of that museum expansion. Additionally, part of the museum includes the urban light, which you can see right here. It consists of a large amount of historic street lamps that makes for a really cool photo opportunity. Additionally, the La Brea tar pits are located just beyond that museum as well, and is within walking distance of the station. So that means we have 4 major museums that are connected to the station. Also, this bus that is just passing us right now is the Rapid 720, which currently runs limited stops along Wilshire Boulevard, but the subway will be much faster. Now, let's get a look at the next stop, Wilshire and La Cienega. Welcome to the intersection of Wilshire and La Cienega, here on the D-Line subway extension. We are still on phase 1 of the extension, and that means the station is scheduled to open along with the first 2 that we looked at by the end of the year. But looking at the station already, we can see that it uses the same sign that has the curved black platform in the center. Let me know what you think in the comments down below of this sign design as well. Do you like the original ones that are on the light rail, such as the E and the A lines, or do you prefer these new ones that are located on the subway more often? Looking to our left, already, let's take a look at it before and after. We can see that the sidewalk is now open to the street. Prior, we were only able to walk in what seemed like a tunnel of those construction fences and signs. And that sidewalk is now complete, so it's awesome to see that that part of construction is now finished. But the part that we're standing on right now still needs to get done. So I hope that sidewalk that runs north along La Cienega Boulevard opens soon. But here's a quick look at the station entrance. We can actually see that some construction workers were messing with the door of the entrance, so maybe there's an issue with that, and hopefully they're resolving it. But here is another angle of the station where we can see the elevators and of course those street lights for the station, which are currently on. The station art is also complete. We look a little bit more in depth than that at the last month's episode, as that was a feature that came last month. But we can also see that there are a bunch of new brown poles that have been placed here. I'm really curious to see what these are going to be. If you do know, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. I'm always curious to learn more about these extensions. Now here's another look at the elevators, which look pretty much completed as well. We can see that there were bike racks just behind those elevators, and now here is another look at the station's entrance. Something worth noting is the large amount of construction supplies and equipment located on the right-hand side. So this is interesting to see, as it's a little more messy than the other stations, but it could be also because the station site here is a little more compact and a little smaller, so it could also be just that. But continuing on, we can also see that the screens inside the station are working and they are displaying correct destinations, being Union Station and VA Medical Center. And of course, those light structures are still on, which does amaze me, as I'm sure the initiatives of LA Metro is saving energy, but it's interesting to see nonetheless. You can see another one of those Rapid 720 buses are going by us right here. All of these stations have pretty great bus connections, including this one. You can see the local 105, which runs north-south along La Cienega Boulevard, is currently running right here. But with that, let's go ahead and take a look at our next stop along the line, our first station in phase 2. So let's go ahead and take a look at that station, which is Beverly Drive. This station was recently renamed from Wilshire Rodeo and is now called Beverly Drive to better reflect the area surrounding it. So let's go ahead and take a look at that station and what it has to offer. And now welcome to the newly renamed Beverly Drive station. Located on Wilshire Boulevard, this station was formerly renamed to Beverly Drive from its former name of Wilshire and Rodeo. This helps simplify the area, especially for tourists who can easily identify the station and its destinations. That bus on our left is again that Rapid 720, which is a express stop route that runs along Wilshire Boulevard. Although the subway is going to be at least twice as fast than the Route 720. So I can't wait to see the increased mobility that'll be granted to this area. But looking across the street, we can see that the sidewalk is blocked off on the other side, and that's likely for work on the sidewalk in terms of redoing it, and most likely adding trees or other decorations to help improve the mobility of the area, while also making it look nice. So while we don't know exactly what they're going to be doing, I can't wait to see what the new sidewalks are going to look like. So the sidewalks are covered over on this side of the street, but they are open. I'm pretty sure that this construction is not necessarily related to the construction of the D-line. It's most likely work on the building above us. By continuing forward, the amount of construction is only going to increase. Located on our left, this area was formerly closed off, but it seems like it's been open now and they just placed some roadblocks that will block you from going in from the sidewalk. It's also worth noting that the sidewalk continues to be closed on the other side of the street, so you're going to need to continue walking around on the south side of Wilshire Boulevard. Looking across, we can also see that there's a ladder that goes straight down into the ground, suggesting that that is an entry point for construction workers. So unfortunately, we're unable to go underground and see exactly what they're doing, but I'm sure there's work being done just out of our line of sight. But we're now at the intersection of Beverly Drive and Wilshire Boulevard, which is what the station is named after. And I think it's a better name than the original one for sure. But let's go ahead and cross the street and continue looking at what's new as we get closer to the station's actual entrance. Straight ahead, we can see that the sidewalk is open luckily, but a large portion of it is blocked off. And we're gonna get a better look at what they're using it for in just a second. But it's nothing too exciting, so I don't want to get you excited for no reason. But as we continue walking along, we see a similar theme as last month's episode, where we're just blocked off from the road due to these construction fences that are located on large stretches of sidewalk. So I'm curious to see what the timeline is for those going down, or whenever construction work is actually going to start in terms of heavy work on the sidewalks. But it's good to see that we are most likely going to have brand new sidewalks with new trees and plant life. So that'll be really nice to see whenever it's done, and it'll help accompany the additional pedestrian traffic once the station opens. But now we can see a look at what they're doing behind those construction fences. Nothing active is happening at the moment, but the sidewalk is completely ripped out of the ground, and there is some construction equipment being stored there. But now looking to our right, we can see straight into the station's entrance construction site. This is where the entrance is going to be. Initially, we don't see too many changes, but looking at this before and after here, we can see that the construction workers from July of 2025 quickly left, and the sidewalk is now open, which we were able to look at in today's monthly update. But now continuing to walk along the eastbound side of Wilshire Boulevard in the eastern direction towards downtown LA, this is a great example on both sides where we can see some of the things that LA Metro has put over those construction fences. And while it does prevent our access into the station in terms of viewing the construction site, it looks great for those passing by, and it really showcases the area that the new station is going to serve, while also advertising that businesses are still open during this, I'd imagine, pretty rough time for business due to all this work here. But now we're looking in from a side view and we can see that new wood structure. That's pretty interesting to see that they've put that up there, and I'm curious to see if that's going to be a skeleton for the future entrance. But let's go ahead and take a look at another before and after to see what they've done, and let's see if we can point out any new changes. Continuing our walk in the eastern direction, we're able to see that the sidewalk remains closed off to the public on the left-hand side, but we are able to walk between the building and the construction site, which is currently blocked off. But let's go ahead and continue walking in the eastern direction towards downtown LA to see what's new. We've now walked a block east, and we're now at the intersection of Wilshire Boulevard and Cannon Drive, where the sidewalk is fully closed just ahead of us. So now the only option is to walk across the street to continue our journey east. But now here's a look at what's been happening on the other side of that construction fence. This looks like it's being used a lot more than what we were looking at earlier, but we're also much more centralized to the construction site and entrance. That truck was actually trying to leave as well, so they've been using it not only for storage, but also for construction vehicle parking. Now, I'm glad we're able to cross the street here and get a closer look at the construction office area. This is only a staging area for the the line station here, so there won't actually be anything here once the station opens. Now, it looked really similar in terms of just being a storage site for construction vehicles and equipment, as well as having that little portable building for the construction office. Feel free to take a look at last month's video as well for a more in-depth look at the construction site there. But continuing along Wilshire Boulevard, the construction ends mostly after this point, and we can see that trees are already put in place for the rest of the sidewalk. But now let's take a look at the next stop, which is Century City Constellation. Welcome back, and now we're at the intersection of Century City and Constellation. Now that intersection is located just ahead in front of us, but the actual station entrance is going to be located to the left. So that red crane and that two-tiered structure is part of the subway extension. But it is important not to get confused with the construction for the skyscraper, which is done here by Clark Construction for the skyscraper directly adjacent to the station's entrance. So that is going to be completely separate from the subway station. But let's go ahead and take a look at what we can see, and let's take a look to see if there are any notable improvements from last month. I do have to make a comment though about the density of this area. It truly feels like a second downtown LA, enough so to the point where I confused the skyline of Century City for downtown Los Angeles in a previous video in the Expo Sepulveda station tour, which I highly recommend you can check out after watching this video. But looking to our right, we can see some new construction over here on the opposite side of the street on the sidewalk. And there are actively construction workers doing things over there, working on what appears to be like a new traffic light foundation, which the construction worker on the right appears to be working on. And we just saw an example of what I was talking about just a few seconds ago, which was the base of this traffic light. So that's most likely what they're working at on the other side of the street. So make sure to come check back and see what they've done next month's construction update, in which I do upload monthly, of course. But now let's cross the street and head closer to the actual subway entrance, which is going to be on the property just ahead. So it's worth noting that you are unable to walk in from the other side of the street as that side is closed. So you can see where those construction workers are entering that gate. You're unable to walk throughout the sidewalk from that point on. So you would need to cross the street where we just did. But now here's an overall look at the station itself. Let's also look at a quick before and after to see if we can notice any immediate changes from there. If you are enjoying those before and after clips, by the way, make sure to let me know in the description down below. Also, if there's anything else you want to see in terms of editing with these construction update videos, also make sure to let me know as well. I'm open to hearing any of your feedback in the description down below, and I always try to respond to every single comment. But let's get back to the construction update. Unfortunately, we are unable to continue straight here. We're going to have to cross the street to get a better look, but you can see there are some oxygen tanks or compressed gas tanks there, along with that red crane, which was inactive at the time. But oh boy, we're gonna see a bunch more activity in just a second, let me tell you. As we continue along Constellation Boulevard, we'll get a much better look at what's happening on the east side of the station. So looking to our left, we can see a red big rig that just pulled in. There were some flaggers at the traffic light intersection just before us that were enabling this truck to back into this area that is parked currently. And they've gone straight away to working on it. They're loading what appears to be older wooden planks onto the truck, most likely to be shipped away. But the speed that they've been working on loading this truck, it's only been a few minutes since it's been parked here. And that red crane is the thing that is helping lift and lower those planks onto the truck. So this is why we see so many cranes around these construction sites to do things just like that. And I know I've probably mentioned in previous videos, and very much well in this one as well, that cranes looked inactive at the time I went around, but they've probably been active sometime during the day, which is why I still mention them, as they're most likely just taking a break at the time I came and visited. But looking just ahead, we can see this area is also still part of the subway construction, and there appears to be a metal-like structure frame on our right-hand side. I'm curious to see if that's going to be part of the station entrance. If you do know more information, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. But right ahead, we can see another construction activity happening right before our eyes. Looks like a lot of rebar is being moved across by this forklift here. And that signifies that they're doing work underground in terms of reinforcing the station box area. It's a little disheartening to see that because that is something that's already being done and has been underway at the Phase 3 stations, which are scheduled to open a year later. We've seen this at the VA Medical Center especially, and we'll get a look at that later in the video as well. So I hope they're just working on the finishing touches in terms of putting up that rebar, because that is something that happens more earlier on in the construction of these subway stations that are underground, of course. But we can already see them lowering another wood plank over there, so they are moving with rapid speed. Awesome to see that. And there's just truly so much activity happening at the Century City Constellation Station. There's a crane in the distance with a construction worker in it, so that's most likely going to be operated very shortly. But now let's get a look at the before and after scene of what this area looks like to see if we can point out any more differences that we may see. But as we continue walking back towards where we came from, we can see that there is tons of activity happening here. And I'm happy to say that the sidewalk over here as well, on a side note, looks pretty complete in a sense that it was either recently redone or was done before we started the series of construction updates. But I hope this sidewalk is what is going to be an example for the other side. Some nice trees and of course wide sidewalks that are perfect for the large amount of pedestrian traffic that is already around here. But now we're back to the intersection of Century City and Constellation, which in my opinion is a great place to put the station. Some may prefer it at the intersection of Santa Monica Boulevard and Century City. But of course that would allow inadequate access for the most dense parts of Century City, which is here at the intersection of Century City and Constellation. You can see that crane is now lifting another plank up onto the truck, so that work is going to continue most likely for quite some time until that truck is fully loaded. From here we can also get a good vantage point of the construction happening on the neighboring skyscraper. They're currently extending the floors from the top level so that where there are more floors for more office space. Hopefully the metro expansion here encourages more skyscrapers and people to add more jobs and expand density to the area. But here's one final look inside the Century City Station construction site. We can also see that lighting is present here, so hopefully they are working all around the clock in order to ensure that this station is ready to open by hopefully summer of 2026. That would be great to see, with an on-time opening of the Phase 1 stations in 2025 by the end of the year. So hopefully we'll see some stuff come from that. But if you're liking the video so far, make sure to like and subscribe for more just like this. I do monthly construction updates as well as all sorts of other videos, and I'll be here once the D-line extension is done. So make sure to stay up to date by liking and subscribing in order to access content just like that. But now let's get to the next stop along the line, which is at Phase 3 at Westwood, UCLA. And now welcome to the Westwood and UCLA station area. We are approaching the station from another angle than normal today. We're coming in from the north side on Veteran. Just ahead is the intersection of Wilshire and Veteran. We're currently facing south, but over on our left you can already see there is a bus bench with plenty of bus connections for Culver City and Big Blue Bus. For other connections, those are going to be located on Wilshire Boulevard. But looking to our left, we can see the backside of the construction wall, which I love how it's still decorated with the route map and of course in big bold letters, the station that is going to be built here, Westwood and UCLA. So glad to see that Metro is taking advantage of all that board space, even if it is facing behind towards UCLA. But of course, we're at the Westwood UCLA station, which as you can see is the second from the end of the extended line. So we are now quite far along the 9.1 mile extension. But let's go ahead and get a closer look at what we can see as we get closer to the station site. Now there is an open door luckily just to our left-hand side, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we can see. We can see that the D-line logo is placed there, and here is a direct look inside the station. Now, the summary is that it's pretty much still a lot of construction supplies and vehicles, but we can see there's a vehicle actively leaving on our right-hand side. So that's pretty good to see that there is activity at the station. Something I've always noted was the lack of construction workers that we've seen at this station in particular. But just looking at the distance, you can already see there is an excavator moving along at the construction site as well. So there is plenty of activity and it feels much more alive here, which is great to see. But let's also get a look at a quick before and after to see if we can notice any more changes that they've made over the past month. But this is truly one of those unique stations where Metro has placed plenty of artwork local to the area, as well as advertisements for the system, pretty much all around the Westwood UCLA station site. You can see along Wilshire Boulevard as well, more in depth in last month's construction update, but I know the sidewalk is closed this way, but it's not currently being occupied by any construction up until that point. So let's go ahead and take a quick peek at what we can see from here. But before we do that, here's a quick report on the traffic. Now, it is still quite backed up here along Wilshire Boulevard, and this backup continues all the way up almost towards Beverly Glen. So if you are traveling through Wilshire Boulevard, it's important that you give yourself at least 15 extra minutes to pass through the area, or use an alternative route. You can also see one of those big blue buses in the distance. That is the Santa Monica's transit operator. Also, located just over there is the Los Angeles Passport Building, and up ahead on our right-hand side is the National Cemetery, which is a beautiful place, and you can take a look at it further in the last month's construction update. But as we continue along the sidewalk here, we can see that there is more logos and labeling. In particular, we see details for LA Metro's new station, of course, and another route map. But what it most impresses me at this station is this huge UCLA map. It showcases the entirety of the campus area, and it's such a shame, honestly, that there's a bus stop shelter blocking it. This, I know it's temporary, but that is truly a work of art, and I hope something like that is incorporated into the final station itself, or into another station, such as the one on the Sepulveda line, that would hopefully give direct access to UCLA. But again, there is so much density around us, particularly behind us, but there is plenty of office space and transit-oriented development already in place, it seems. So hopefully ridership at this station is going to be pretty high, but of course only time will tell, and I'm going to be making plenty of videos based on things like that once the line opens. But over there, that bus stop shelter serves the eastbound Metro Rapid 720 and 20. So on Wilshire Boulevard is where you're going to board most of the buses heading along Wilshire Boulevard, one of which you can see passing right in front of us, which is the big blue bus, Route 17, which runs between Culver City and UCLA. So you are theoretically able to connect to that bus in order to reach the UCLA campus. So it's not that difficult to get to UCLA from this point. But let's now get a look at the next stop along the line at the VA Medical Center. Welcome to the VA Medical Center station area. We're located on the north side of Wilshire Boulevard, where we're going to take a look at some of the artwork out here before we head in. Starting right ahead of us, this image is new and it wasn't here last month's construction update, so that's awesome to see that they're continuing to update the art in the area. And looking straight ahead, there is so much more construction activity happening here for what appears to be a new mural of sort, but this construction is quite heavy. So if you do know what Metro is going to be adding here, feel free to let me know in the description down below. My guess would be stairs that would access Wilshire Boulevard from the street down here in order to enable those better connections. But let's actually get a look at a quick before and after to quickly point out some of the major changes specifically. And now we're back to walking beneath Wilshire Boulevard here towards the VA Medical Center station site. And underneath the bridge here is plenty of honorable military labels, pictures, and seals. It is so awesome how the city around here has enabled such artwork to be placed up here, and it truly makes the VA Medical Center area feel just like home for veterans. If you see your veteran seal here, point it out and let me know down below. Anyways, we take a more in-depth look at that in some previous construction updates. Let's continue straight ahead to continue looking at the construction for the VA Medical Center station. And I do notice that there's now a flagpole open here, and it seems pretty new, honestly. I don't remember this being here last time, but it's awesome to see that they're adding more things just like that. It's the little things that matter. But looking across to our left-hand side, that is going to be the actual entrance for the VA Medical Center station. And as a reminder, we're currently in the Phase 3 section, and this is the last station on the 9.1 mile D-line extension. So the station here, along with Westwood and UCLA, is scheduled to open in the year 2027, just in time for the LA Olympics. So in this part of the video, there's probably going to be not too much upright and vertical in terms of stations itself, but as we look through here, we can see that it is mostly a construction site that has parked vehicles and construction equipment. But there has recently been a lot of activity, in particular with the underground parts of the station, and we're going to get a look at that in just a second. But again, for a sense of location, we're currently walking along Bonsall Avenue, southbound to the VA Medical Center Hospital. There are bus stops just ahead of us and on our right hand side. This is for the aforementioned Big Blue Bus Route 17. All other bus routes stop on Wilshire Boulevard, which is of course that elevated street just behind us. You can also see the route map for Big Blue Bus as well, and a QR code that leads to its latest schedule. This is one of the best features I like transit agencies having at a bus stop, as schedule changes do happen fairly often in terms of maybe 2 to 3 or even 4 times per year, but it's definitely going to take a lot of time to change all of the bus stop signs with updated schedules. So those QR codes are a great change to have. Also, just ahead of us, you can see the street does change texture from asphalt to concrete here. So here, this is where we are directly above the station box for the VA Medical Center station. So that's a cool way to denote where we're currently at. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we can see. And already, boy, there's a ton of construction happening, and we can see the rebar is now going up and vertical from both sides. So eventually that's going to cover the platform level, and we will no longer be able to see what's currently down there. So hopefully you'll enjoy these last few months with me as we continue to get a look at the platform down below. But eventually it's going to be just like the Westwood UCLA station or the Century City station, where it's all plugged up. But this is good news though, especially as they continue progression with construction. Another thing worth noting here is that wood paneling up against that rebar. That is most likely going to be the walls for the station itself. But looking back up to the construction at ground level here, we can see that there are even construction workers over here as well, and that yellow crane appears to be operational. But of course, if it's not active at the time of filming, of course it's probably going to be actively moving things at other times of the day, particularly during off times, such as at night. But of course, looking at our left-hand side now, we're able to see a map of what the station is actually going to look like. And we can see there's an escalator outside the station that leads up to Wilshire Boulevard, which is pretty awesome to see. And that's going to improve connections greatly. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second, if you haven't seen any of the previous construction updates. But continuing on here, we can see that there is a lot of equipment stored as well on the far side of the station site here. But let's go ahead and cross the street here. And jaywalking is legal in California now. Just make sure you're being careful and looking both ways. But looking up here, we can see more construction activity, but there will not be an entrance for the station on this side of the street, especially as I feel you'd only exit at the station in order to transfer to buses, or if you're actually heading to the VA Medical Center itself. So I think that's okay, and I hope they make some good transit-oriented development here, as this is a prime location that has tons of transit availability and convenient access to the VA Medical Center. Maybe this can be something like low-income veteran housing. That would be something really great for the area. But looking down here, we can see that the rebar over here actually completely encompasses the expected roof of the station. And yes, it's also worth noting that there is a ton of noise happening around this construction site, especially. The volume of the clips in the video are significantly lowered just because of the very high amount of noise here at the construction site. But I take it as a good sign, as they're working very quickly here in order to get the rebar up so that way they can create the cover for the station box. Looking back up at surface level here, there's not too many changes, but we can still see that that yellow crane is still in the same spot. It's not currently active at the time we're here, but I'm sure it was in between this month and last month of filming, since it was there last month as well. So at the surface level for that side, it looks pretty much the same as last month. But looking over there, we can actually see, if you look closely, the yellow crane is moving. Now, I'm not exactly sure what it's moving at the moment, but let's go ahead and get a closer look in just a second. Looking back to our left, we can get one more look at the station box that's currently beneath us from the west side of Bonsall Avenue. Right here. So, looks like in the distance too, the rebar is actually complete in terms of it's already covered over. So I'd be willing to bet that next video, we should see, honestly, not the platform level. So I hope you are enjoying these earlier construction updates where we can see all the way down to the platform level there. But from there on out, we won't be able to see directly what's happening underground, unfortunately, as that is the thing about subway construction updates compared to things like the OC streetcar or A-line extension updates. But looking straight ahead, we're able to see where most buses are going to be boarding, and that's going to be at the top of that bridge on Wilshire Boulevard. Looking to our left though, we can see there's a pretty open field here, and I'm curious to see if Metro's going to do anything to this, as honestly it could be a great place to put a park, plaza, or really anything that could help make the area a cooler place. Maybe even some more transit-oriented development. That would be awesome to see as well, although that's a rather small lot. Looking on the wall of Wilshire Boulevard here, they have on and off ramps just like a freeway it seems, but they've done an amazing job at making it feel just like home and tailoring the artwork to the area. But now let's go ahead and get a look and see if the yellow crane is currently lifting or lowering things over there. Let's see if we can get a look at what it's doing, because in the past videos, we haven't really been able to see the cranes here at the VA Medical Center actively moving things like we had in this video earlier on at Century City. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we can see. Unfortunately, the crane is pretty far to the back of the construction site, and the construction site for the VA Medical Center is huge, but it appears like there's a construction worker there that is helping either put something onto the crane or take it off. So it was actively being used during the time that I was here, which is awesome to see. But yeah, the bus stop I was talking about earlier is located up on the top right of the screen, which is pretty inconvenient because you have to walk all the way up that on-ramp just on the right-hand side, and then you'd have to turn around and get to the bridge itself. Now, if you want to see more in depth of how you would be able to do that, make sure to check out some other construction updates I've done at the station here. But Metro is addressing that with, of course, that escalator that led to a bridge up to Wilshire Boulevard directly. That is going to help make it easier to get to your bus transfers. So of course, we'll be looking for progress on that extra bridge as well. And truly, the VA Medical Center is one of the largest station sites out of any of the subway stations along the line, which is interesting to see. But here is one of those big blue bus routes, 17. This one in particular is heading towards UCLA. So with that, honestly, this is an amazing extension and I can't wait for it to open. I feel like it's truly going to increase the ridership in the entire metro system by getting a lot of people on Wilshire Boulevard and bringing them to downtown or to the west side. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome rest of your day or night.